All right, hello everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today as we're going to explore Google Shopping campaigns. My name is Billy McCaffrey, and I'm on the onboarding team here at WordStream. And just so you know, this is going to be just a quick run through of Google Shopping campaigns. Feel free to ask questions as we go along. Certainly, we'll save about 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the presentation here to take questions, but if something comes into your head while we're going along here, just feel free to type it into the GoToMeeting question box. So I'm just going to run through our agenda here for the presentation. We're going to start off by introducing our experts here to take you through the shopping campaign. We're going to then talk, just a general intro to shopping campaigns. What are they and why? Why is Google making this change? Then we're going to move on to talk about how shopping campaigns are similar to your product listing ads and how they differ from your product listing ads. And then we're going to walk you through the transition process from your product listing ads to shopping campaigns. We'll then move on to show you some best practices that you'll want to keep in mind as you're moving towards those shopping campaigns. And then we'll hit you up with a little bit of advice from us personally here at WordStream regarding those campaigns. All right. So we have our fine gentlemen here of WordStream who are going to be taking you through the presentation. We have Jeff Stevens, who's part of our software support team. Then we have Chris Panetta and Nick D'Amato of our managed services team. These three guys have a wealth of experience in the paid search space, and they are certainly the ones that you want to get this information from, so you are in good hands. Also, too, definitely, we want this to be interactive, so feel free to take part in live blogging. If you include the hashtag WordStream in your Twitter feed, or Twitter tweets, Google Plus status updates, or etc., you'll be able to start up a little bit of dialogue as well. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Stevens, who's going to walk you through, what are Google Shopping campaigns and why is Google making the change.
All right, thanks so much, Billy, for that great introduction. And once again, my name's Jeff. Just a quick background. I'm on the software team at WordStream. I work with a lot of our clients that use our current software, help a lot of agencies as well use the software to help manage their clients there. So if you do have any questions as how this might relate to the software, I'm probably the good guy to ask here. But let's get started. So I'm just going to walk you through why Google is actually deciding to transition everybody over to shopping campaigns and what Google Shopping campaigns actually are. It's going to be a pretty simple overview here. So to get started, just so you know, Google Shopping will be replacing Google product listing ads by the end of August. If you've heard a specific date for the actual transition, I would venture to say that it's probably untrue. We don't have any specific date right now. All we know is that these are going to be done by the end of August. Google Shopping in general is a product-centric paid advertising format that seeks to expand on the benefits of the PLA format and to try and improve the management capabilities that are available to advertisers. So the question is, why is Google actually creating this transition? Why are they forcing us over to shopping campaigns? The real answer is that after a lot of internal research, Google does have a lot of data to work with. They've essentially determined that advertisers have found some really good success with PLAs. I'm sure a lot of you here can relate. Many of the advertisers that run PLAs and format them properly usually are met with great success and very low cost per conversion. But a lot of advertisers have noticed this particular platform definitely has some improvements that could be made. In particular, a lot of advertisers expressed a desire for kind of like operational improvements, so improvements to kind of the knobs and levers that you can pull to adjust your campaigns, to help organize your campaigns and make optimization tweaks. And kind of following from that, a lot of advertisers were talking about how they would prefer to get even deeper data insights for the purpose of optimization. Shopping campaigns are designed to deliver on both of these fronts. You should really look at these as new opportunities to have a lot of different ways to manage your campaigns and optimize, because you're going to have a whole wealth of information in your shopping campaigns that you did not have before when you were running PLAs. So the philosophical idea behind the shopping campaign is that Google kind of came up with this idea that, retailers today obviously organize, plan, and price their inventory very specifically based on how they actually want to manage their store and just understand how they're selling their products. Google kind of, expressed this idea as if, what if you could manage your campaign like an actual storefront? So Google really wants to make campaign organization very similar to how you actually organize, plan, and price your own inventory in a store or in your online shop. So that's kind of the basic overview of shopping campaigns, just the philosophy behind why Google is actually trying to create this transition and creating this new format. A lot of it is fairly general. They've just found some great insights from their data that shows that a lot of advertisers are having great success with PLAs, but again, there are those rooms for improvement that we've discussed, and the philosophy behind this is to really try and make your campaigns so much more flexible to the point where you can essentially recreate your own shop structure or online store structure within a shopping campaign very easily. So I'm going to go ahead and transition this over to Chris Panetta, who is one of our paid search managers on the agency side of WordStream, and he's going to talk to you about the differences and similarities between PLAs and shopping campaigns.
Thank you, Jeff. As Jeff mentioned, my name is Chris. I've been with WordStream for 2 years on the managed service team, and I've actually been dealing with shopping campaigns since they were put into beta in October of 2013. So I've been dealing with them for about a year now, a little bit less, and have a lot of insight to offer you guys here. So first off, how is shopping similar to PLAs? Products appear in the same place as before, both in the shopping tab, illustrated in the bottom right, and in the actual search network, illustrated in the bottom left. They use the same feed as the old product listing ads campaign, so you don't have to rewrite your feed or remake your feed, which is huge, saves a lot of time, and I think Google really took that part to heart when they were trying to set up shopping. They didn't want to have people write new feeds or have to create a new format. And you still update your feed through Merchant Center. So although shopping has internalized a lot of things that you previously had to do in your feed, you still have to use Merchant Center to upload that feed. And now how are they different? Well, they're different in a lot of ways. First is the new dedicated campaign type for shopping, which you can see on this slide here. Previously, with product listing ads, we had to set up a search campaign and then set up the product listing ads within that search campaign. Well, now we have our own shopping campaign, and it's really allowed us to have a lot more function within it. Secondly, we're able to set up special promotions within the product groups. I'll touch on product groups in a minute, but these special promotions allow us to kind of differentiate our ads as they show up in the shopping feeds throughout Google. And as you can see here, my example is free expedited shipping on all orders. And it can really be any promotion you want. It can be free shipping, save 10% or 5% with a coupon code, anything you can think of. And lastly, the new campaign structure, or lastly on this slide, the new campaign structure mimics the search network. So it's completely customizable, and you have these new things called product groups. They're essentially the same as ad groups, except they allow us to manage our product or our shopping campaigns a lot easier. And there's also easy to understand navigation. There's no longer just that all products ad group, and if you really wanted customization like you used to have to do in PLAs, you'd have to go into the actual feed itself and edit the feed and set up a custom label category there. You don't have to do that anymore. There's also easy to measure results at the product level. So now we can split it out so we can see each product and each product's specific performance within shopping. And there's product level management as well. So we have the ability to set custom bids, and we have the ability to set a lot of other custom parameters, as I'm about to show you here on this next slide. This is an example of a new shopping product group. This isn't the whole campaign. This is just what one product group will look like. We have the ability to segment each product group based on 4 or 5 different metrics. In this case, I chose brand, which is Brady, but you can segment by brand, by product type, by product category, or product ID as the 4 main ones. And what I did here is I set up Brady as the brand here, and then sub-brand, I set up each individual product so I can monitor the performance of each product and see the results at that product level, like I was just describing. And why the changes? Are they actually better? I can tell you from experience, yes, they are. I dealt heavily with PLAs before shopping, and shopping has just saved me so much time and so many headaches. The changes allow a very retail-centric style of management to shopping campaigns. We have a lot more control. They're easier to set up, use, and navigate. There's advanced product level reporting too, as I just showed you. We can control the bids and specific promotions at the product level, allowing us just an unprecedented level of reporting from that. There's also competitive landscape data. Although you didn't see it in that previous slide, there's industry benchmarks that you can see within shopping campaigns that give you a rough idea of where to start, and there are some good estimates of where to base your bids off of. And it's just easier to manage. As I said before, it's less time intensive, and you're going to get better results than you did with PLAs. So now I'm going to switch it over to transitions from PLAs to shopping. I'm going to go with Jeff again here.
Thank you, Chris, and Jeff back here with you. I'm going to walk you through the basic transition steps that you need to be thinking about as you're working through transitioning PLAs to shopping campaigns. So really keep in mind, again, this forced transition give you here are going to allow you to start working on this right away. So really, when you're thinking about transitioning from PLAs to shopping campaigns, you really need to think of it in terms of a simple transition versus a complex transition. What I'm going to do here is just kind of detail what I think is the ideal process for simple transitions and complex, and hopefully these steps will just make sure that you have a very, very smooth transition over from PLAs to your shopping campaigns. So the first step that you need to take when you're actually transitioning, beyond just thinking if you're a simple or a complex campaign, is to actually prepare your feed for upgrades. So as Chris mentioned earlier, you don't actually need to make like drastic changes to your feed before you upload it. Really what you need to do is just take advantage of some of the additional parameters that you can use to make your shopping campaigns a bit more flexible. So again, your data feed provides product-specific information that Google is going to use to accurately match your products to searchers. So you're now going to use these attributes and values in your feed to create the product groups that Chris was showing you earlier. So you're also going to be able to actually view your campaign performance by these additional product attributes. And as Chris mentioned, the type of segmentation and data viewing that you can get in shopping campaign is really second to none. These attributes and the feed setup is really what's going to allow you to get that type of flexibility in the campaign. So this isn't necessarily a new attribute. It's just an attribute that has been available, but it's something you need to really include in your feed at this point if you are going to upgrade over to shopping. Your product groups are really only as flexible as your feed is. You can control the categories that you actually assign to products. And I recommend that you use an existing classification system that you're familiar with, perhaps the one that's in your inventory database or your actual website. And by classification system, I mean kind of the hierarchy of your products. So as you can see in this example here, a product type column field would typically look like this. This is just a retailer that sells hats, 2014 styles, women's category, 12-inch size hats. Very, very basic breakdown just for the example. But what you should know is that essentially the categories here are separated by the greater than symbol. It is a hierarchy. It's a hierarchy that you can design on your own. So this allows you to really kind of create the feed on your own and have a really good sense of how you want to organize your shopping campaigns just based on the actual product types that you've inserted into your feed. One final thing you should know about the product type attribute is that you can only subdivide your products up to 5 levels. So just keep that in mind as you're planning out kind of your taxonomy here to set up that product type column in your feed. Custom labels are available, of course, in the product feed now. These are used a little bit more flexibly in shopping campaigns. They're kind of just an opportunity for you to really trick out your feed and apply different labeling to certain products that maybe goes beyond just your basic taxonomy or brand, product ID, things like that. Custom labels you typically use for things like seasonality, top-selling products, low-selling products, just different ways that you as a shop owner or as a store owner, as an advertiser and seller, are thinking about your different products that may not actually sync up with just a very specific taxonomy. One thing you should know about this attribute and kind of the other attributes that are similar to it, like AdWords labels or AdWords grouping attributes in the feed, shopping campaigns don't recognize these attributes anymore. And you're essentially going to be looking to use custom labels to fill in the gaps that those were working for. Do not delete the AdWords labels or AdWords groupings options from your feed, however, because they can be used by different campaigns, including remarketing. The final thing you should know is that you can submit up to 5 custom labels per product. So you do have 5 different custom labeling columns that you can use to segment your products even further. And now step 2, in terms of transitioning from PLAs to shopping, is to actually plan your update process. So this is kind of coming back into the simple versus complex idea. So first thing you should do, obviously, is just identify whether that's the case with your campaign. So kind of a very basic example of a simple PLA campaign may be a PLA campaign that you've built out maybe a couple of years now. You've been running an all products ad group, and you did 10 unique branded ad groups. You went into your feed there, made sure that you were able to segment that way, and just kind of have had these running consistently. There's nothing too fancy about this setup, so I would definitely consider it a very simple PLA campaign. However, a complex PLA campaign would be something where maybe you have 10 branded ad groups, but you also have special promotions running. You have a bestsellers ad group. You have a bunch of different ad groups also running on unique product groupings. You can pretty much tell if your campaign is complex or simple just by looking at the way it's structured and the naming conventions and just the general look and feel of the actual campaign. So the actual transition plan between simple and complex isn't that different. Just kind of really works off of the duration of the transition itself. But here's kind of your simple transition plan. Really what you should look to do is just replicate your PLA ad groups in the shopping campaigns. You'll find that this is exceptionally easy in shopping because now that you have these product group options, you can build out these ad groups individually without having to go back into your feed and make these adjustments that allow you to segment. Now, one thing you should know about shopping campaigns is that they have the option underneath the campaign settings, you can see this highlighted here on the slide, to set campaign priorities between low, medium, and high. What I'm going to recommend you do for a simple transition is to run your PLA and shopping campaigns concurrently for at least 1 week. During that 1 week period where you're running both at the same time, you should set your shopping campaigns to the low priority. We mentioned earlier that shopping campaigns kind of have a ramp-up period. It would be as if you're kind of turning off your entire PLA campaign and turning on shopping in the same day. There is going to be a gap there for about a week, as we would expect, where you're actually not getting the volume that you would be used to seeing, and the day-to-day performance isn't really reflective of what you should expect to see after about 1 to 2 weeks of running the shopping campaign. So it's a good idea to run them together and just make sure you do set that priority to low on the shopping campaign. And then after 1 full week, go ahead and fully pause your PLA campaign and then come back into your shopping campaign and set it to the high priority. For complex campaigns, I typically recommend the same exact process. Keep shopping and PLAs running concurrently with that low priority setting for the shopping campaign. But I do recommend you keep this running for about 2 weeks. The reason why I give you the 2-week window there is, of course, with this more complex campaigns, it just might take a little bit more actual time to create that transition and to recreate everything underneath the shopping campaign. So one thing you can do is kind of turn things on slowly in shopping as you're working on them between PLA and shopping. So really no major difference here, just the time period that you want to take. But kind of the big thing that should be sticking out to you right now is that you do want to run these concurrently as you're performing the transition. And I'm going to go ahead and transfer it over to Nick D'Amato, and he's going to walk you through shopping campaign best practices.
Thanks, Jeff, for explaining the transition to shopping campaigns. Hi, everyone. I'm Nick. I work on the managed services team as a paid search coordinator, and I'm going to be walking you through the shopping campaign best practices. I'm going to divide it into 3 different parts. I'm going to start off with feed setup, and then get into campaign optimization, and then finish off with bidding optimization. So let's start off. When you're setting up your feed, you want to ensure your data is accurate. It's important to update your feed regularly to keep your info current, to reflect new prices and availability. It's important to set yourself up for success with a well-maintained feed. All prices and product availability must match what's on your website. Best way to ensure this is to update your feed whenever you update your site. You want to be relevant with your shopping campaigns. Usually users are happier when the text on a landing page is a close match to the ad they clicked. Also, the 3 main things to focus on in your feed are titles, descriptions, and images. You want to make these user-friendly. You need to present your offerings with clear titles and descriptions. Put the essential and relevant data at the top. You want to make sure that you match titles and descriptions to search queries. So if someone searches, say, belts or sunglasses, you want to make sure that those words appear in the title. It's also a good idea to limit your title to 50 characters. You want to stay straightforward with titles and descriptions. And you also want to be keyword rich, but don't overstuff with keywords. There's no need for repetition, and it could hurt your placement. Also, it's important that your images are of high resolution and that they're clear as to what product you're selling. As you can see in this example, the top images look good because they match, the background matches the color of the SERP, and it shows you the products that they're selling. The bottom images, they're kind of complicated and convoluted. It's not a good idea to have words over the product that you're selling. It's also a great idea to submit the unique product identifiers in your feed, which are usually the item ID or your MPNs or ISBNs, so the product can be displayed for highly competitive keywords. It's a very important aspect for a quality feed. Up-to-date feeds with keyword-rich descriptions will entice users and keep ads showing at the right time. It's also important to note that after you upload your feed, make sure you check your feed summary in the Merchant Center and check for anything like missing attributes, incorrect URLs, or mismatched data between feed and website. Next, I'm going to talk about campaign optimization. So as Jeff mentioned before the auto transition, you would want to keep your PLAs on once your shopping has been finalized. He also touched upon that there's a new setting for your campaign, which are the priority levels. We recommend that you keep these at a low priority level when you first turn on your shopping campaigns. We've also mentioned that you can set up different shopping campaigns, mainly based on custom labels such as bestsellers or seasonal products. This is a great feature for your campaigns. It allows you to set different priority levels for different campaigns. So if you have a holiday sale coming up, you might want to have your priority level at high for the holiday sale and then keep your other shopping campaign at a low priority level. It's also a great idea to utilize the ad feature. This is a great way to show any promotions that you have going on your site, and it's a great idea. You also have the option to use a Dimensions tab in your shopping campaigns to see performance from product groups to individual products. This is a great way to see how certain items are performing, and if there's high-performing items, you can group these out into a different product group. Also, another feature of the Dimensions tab is that you can see search terms. You can see what people are actually looking at. As before in the PLA, you had the option to add keywords. This did nothing in PLAs, and they're no longer showing in shopping. But you still have the option to add negatives, and using the Dimensions tab for search terms is a great way to do this. Next, I'm going to talk about the bidding optimization. Now you can see competitive landscape data. This is a real game changer for shopping campaigns. The new data that is shown is benchmark CPC and CTR, and also impression share. We say that you shouldn't even pay attention to benchmark CPC and CTR. As you can see this example below, CPC is actually lower than the benchmark, while there are a higher CTR rate compared to the benchmark. The metric that you should pay attention to is impression share. Impression share will tell you if you have the potential to show more frequently. You can usually use that percentage to tell you where you can be more aggressive. This will help you, lower your cost and potentially raise your conversions. So finally, here's a little advice from us. You should not wait to auto transition. It's important that you familiarize yourself with these new features. Overall performance will be better long term. It'll help you get ahead of the competition. And you don't want to auto transition because you don't want to disturb the behavior of your account. PLAs, you should keep those on until the auto transition because you want to have those running smoothly already like you've had before, and shopping campaigns will need time to ramp up. Now I'm going to hand it over to Billy, who will handle the questions.
Thanks, Nick. All right, guys. Now that we have reached the end of our presentation, we are going to go ahead and take your questions now, so feel free to start typing them into the GoToMeeting box. Certainly, we will hang out here for a few minutes, give you guys a chance to ask those questions, so feel free to fire away. All right, we do have our first question here. The question is, you say that we have 5 custom labels we can add to our feed. Are there any best practices around this?
Typically, what we used to do with custom labels, when they were functioned a little bit differently, is we would use those if we wanted to set up kind of a branded ad group or anything like that in the old scheme of product listing ads. Nowadays, you can really just use them to mark specific products that are of high importance. You can use them to mark specific categories within a brand. So if you want to separate a brand into maybe 1 or 2 printers, if you sell printers, but not separate that brand into the entire printer line, you can do that as well. With best practices, it's really just important to remember how you're going to be using it. You can really use it for anything you want, so as long as you're using it for something that you feel is relevant, there's nothing that you can really do that's wrong with them.
All right, our next question here is, if you're unable to alter product names on your site, is it possible to change names in the product feed? This particular person is a marketplace, and their sellers add their own products and write their own product names. I think Chris has the answer for us.
Yeah, so the answer is a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. It all depends on the style of feed you're using. If you're using an XML feed, which is automatically generated by your backend, then you're probably not really going to be able to edit it unless you want to go in manually and work with the XML file, which is something I don't recommend unless you're a very advanced user with XML and know what you're doing, just because you have the potential to really hurt your product feed and screw something up in there. If you're using a CSV feed, basically an Excel file, or if you're using a Google Doc Excel or a Google Doc spreadsheet, then you can very easily go into the feed and just rename the products whatever you want and rewrite the descriptions as well.
All right, we've got another question here. Should I be implementing any sort of ad extensions with my shopping campaigns?
It's a very good question. Unlike search network campaigns, ad extensions themselves don't actually have any effect on shopping. There is one extension that's not available through AdWords. You need to contact Google to get enrolled in it, but it's not even a beta. It's just something you need to get approval for, and it's called Special Promotions. And what you can do is, besides having the product-specific promotion, which we showed you in this slide earlier, you can have a little blue tag that appears under your product in the shopping feed within Google.com, and that will kind of differentiate your ad and also let a potential buyer know that, hey, there's a special promotion going on right now that we can take advantage of. So the question was, how do you sign up for the special promotion? Stealing your thunder there, Billy. All you have to do to sign up is go to a specific URL on Google. We don't have it offhand, but if you ask your CS rep, they will be able to send it to you within the hour after this webinar. I'll make sure they all get it.
We've got another question here specifically about the WordStream software. I think Jeff will have the answer for it. Someone was curious, how the shopping campaigns will be reflected in the software.
So you should expect no major difference between how PLAs are being shown in the WordStream software to how shopping will be revealed in the WordStream software. As you know right now, PLAs don't have much actual managerial support in the actual tool. So you're essentially able to just have a read-only view of your campaigns. And you can assign negative keywords to your PLAs at the campaign level in WordStream, but that's about as far as it goes. Expect the same with shopping for now. We will be rolling out additional support for shopping over time, but I can't put any guarantees on that. So for right now, expect to manage shopping mostly in AdWords. That's where the best information is right now in terms of shopping management for optimization that you'll want to be using. But just keep that in mind. You will see the read-only campaigns in the actual WordStream software. So rest assured you can see that data there.
And if you turn your attention right now in the GoToMeeting box to the little chat window, we actually just threw the link in there to sign up for the merchant promotion interest form. So feel free to click on that, and you guys should be good to go there. And I'll also include a link to a blog post as well that you guys can use just to get some additional information. All right, we've got another question here. If the product listing ads auto-convert to shopping campaigns and we set up 2 concurrent campaigns, won't this cause overlapping?
Yeah, so you will be overlapping, but that's exactly what you want to do when you're transitioning. If you transition by immediately shutting off your product listing ads and starting up shopping, your account's not going to do very well. Well, like everything within AdWords, there's a ramp-up time for shopping campaigns, typically a week to 2 weeks, depending how big your feed is. But I recommend going with at least a week of concurrent PLA and shopping campaigns running. And again, the reason for that is you're going to lose a lot of revenue if you just immediately stop your PLAs, which are working at peak performance, and start up your shopping, which has no performance history. So it's going to take about a week to ramp up at minimum.
We've got a question here. Will reviews be even more important with how our shopping items are displayed? If you could go ahead and just clarify which types of reviews you're referring to, we'd be happy to answer that question. And in addition to the 2 links that I threw there in the chat box, Chris is actually going to have a blog post on the shopping campaigns that he'll be releasing really soon. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And also, too, we'll send around these links just in case you can't get them from the GoToMeeting box as well. So don't worry about not having the chance to get them.
Yeah, and it's Chris here again, guys. My blog post will be specifically covering transitioning from PLAs to shopping. So it's definitely a very hot topic, and there's going to be a lot of very valuable information within that.
So we did get clarification on the question about reviews. The asker was referring to Google-approved reviews that contribute to a company's overall rating, for example, 5-star ratings.
Yeah, so that's actually not going to have any effect. It'll be treated the same way that product listing ads were treated with this review extension, in that the review extension itself is kind of separate from the product listing ads. If you're using it, you know that it's something you have to get opted into. It's not something you can set up through AdWords, so there won't really be any change at all to that. And Chris here again, I want to add one more quick note about transitioning. If you are transitioning, and I'm going to cover this in my blog post as well, make sure that you pause your PLAs on the 29th or the 30th, even if you're running side-by-side a PLA and a shopping campaign. And the reason for that is Google will still automatically transition over that product listing ad campaign, even if you already have a shopping campaign running next to it and live in the account. So to avoid any issues or any errors, it's just a better practice to pause the product listing ad campaign on the 29th or the 30th.
Great, thanks, Chris. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions coming in, so I think we're going to close out the presentation here. We thank you guys so much for your time and for attending, and we hope you found it helpful. And certainly, if you have any questions moving forward, don't hesitate to reach out to your dedicated customer success specialist. We'd be happy to explain any of the finer details to you. So once again, thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day.